Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to attend the 2021 International Conference on Medicine Science and Bioengineering, International Conference on Biomedical Engineering and Health Science, International Conference on Bioinformatics, and International Conference on Basic Clinical Pharmacology and Toxicology. Due to the COVID-19 situation, these four conferences will be held together, and they have been converted into a virtual conference via Zoom after thorough consideration. Thank you for taking time off your busy schedule to attend the conference. It's a great pleasure indeed for me to be able to host it. Now, let me introduce our conference briefly. Our conference is held every year to make it an ideal platform for people to share views and experiences. It attracts participants in a diverse range of fields, including medicine science, bioengineering, bioinformatics, and other related fields. I would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you. Now, allow me to describe the schedule for today. As it described in the program, first is the open ceremony, and then keynote speeches and oral presentations. We have invited two keynote speakers, Professor Vijayan Gurumurthy Iyer from Techno-Economic Environment Study and Czech Consultancy Services, Dr. Mohammed Farhan Ashraf Bey from the University of Hong Kong, China. Also, we will have oral reporters who have found time to share your expertise. Oral presentations for each author is 15 minutes. After each speech, there will be a discussion time. If you have any questions, please click the question icon to raise hand or leave a message in the group chat. That's all the procedure for today. Now, let's get started. Begin with the first keynote speaker, Professor Vijayan Gurumurthy Iyer. He is a professional engineer, Doctor of Techno-Economic Environment Study, Czech Consultancy Services. He received a postdoctoral degree in Science and Engineering in 2011. The same year, he also served as Principal Prince of Wiley-Blackwell College. Today, his speech title is Strategic Environmental Assessment Process for Sustainable Environmental Neuroscience and Psychiatry for Sustainable Nano Toxicological Development. Welcome. Hey, Professor, you may start your speech now.
Hello, am I audible? Hello, am I audible? Hello, am I audible? Hello, hello, am I audible?
Yes, but I can't see your presentation.
Oh,
Could you click the share screen icon?
can you please share my presentation?
Okay. Okay, wait me for a second.
Can you share my presentation, please?
And sorry, could you please share your...
Okay, I will share it. Just one minute.
Could you please share your presentation yourself?
Yes, yes.
I didn't prepare your presentation, sorry.
Yeah, I'll share it now.
Okay.
Can you see my presentation now?
No, sorry,
No, okay.
I can't see.
I'll share it. Hello, am I audible?
Now I can see your screen.
Okay, shall I start my presentation?
Yes, yes, you may start.
Okay. Am I audible? Hello, am I audible?
Yes, yes.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, I can see your presentation.
My topic is strategic environmental assessment process for sustainable environmental neuroscience, psychiatry towards sustainable nano toxicological development. Can you see my presentation slide number
Yes,
1?
yes, I can see your presentation clearly.
When electromagnetic radiation, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can see your screen
When electromagnetic radiation is incident on surface, the basic interactions with the features take place macroscopically and microscopically. That is, incident radiation is equal to ER plus EA plus ET. That is reflected energy and absorbed energy and transmitted energy, alpha, xi, and zeta. And microscopically and macroscopically, that is microscopically and macroscopically, that is EE, EV plus ET, EIR macro scale, micro scale, nano scale, close to atomic and molecular scales, manufacturing 1, 2, 3. That is E is equal to HC by lambda, M is equal to H by lambda C, E is equal to MC squared. And now I am just giving the nano and micro and closed atomic. So I just correlate with the music therapy. Can you hear my sound?
Yes, I can hear your music.
Yeah, this is the sound which is produced in the music therapy. This is the music therapy, just like a chemotherapy, and this is a music therapy. And I am just giving the sound of music. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, ti, do, re, mi. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do, ti, la, so, fa, mi, re, do. This is the scale. This is being vibrated here in macro scale, micro scale, and nano scale, and close atomic and close molecular scale. This is the sound of music. So this is called music therapy. In this music therapy, in 1 second it was vibrated into 1000 millionth. In one second it was vibrated to 1000 millionth. So this is the slide which is concerned to the EMR interaction, electromagnetic radiation interaction, interrelation with the sound particle in a nano level and a close atomic level, close micro level, and it is vibrated in the music therapy. So this is the incident radiation, that is reflection, absorption, and transmittance, alpha, xi, and zeta respectively, and microscopically in a nano level, that is macro scale production, micro scale production, and nano scale close to atomic and molecular scales, manufacturing 1, 2, 3. E is equal to hc by lambda, m is equal to h by lambda c, E is equal to mc squared. In this way, the strategic environmental assessment process for sustainable environmental neuroscience and psychiatry towards sustainable nanotoxicological development has been systematically studied, identified, evaluated for mitigation of the neuroscience effects and psychiatry effects towards the nano level and closed atomic level and closed molecular level have been assessed that include the macroscopic level. So this is the EMR interaction and interrelation. Am I audible? And next slide, can you please see that? Hello? Am I audible? The prediction and assessment of environmental effects on the neuroscience and psychiatry. So this is the input. The input is here. This is the input for the model which has been developed. Process approach model. The resources, manpower, machinery, raw materials, method, money, market. For example, in nano production of the sound. So the output is, you can everybody see this output. The output is effective and efficiency. And effectiveness means all the designed neuroscience models and neuroscience theories, they are all designed only effectiveness. They are not efficiency. So it has to be redesigned as well as the considering the loss function deployment. Even if you see the chemotherapy and the manipulation of the cells, the curing of the cancer cells, all these things, they have involved only effectiveness, that is ability to achieve the desired result. They are not focused on the efficiency, that is output by input, so that the toxicological effects can be minimized. The loss function deployment is a toxicological effects. So this should be minimized. That has been meticulously assessed, evaluated in my music therapy. It is also a clinical process. So the vibration, it is distracted, and it reach our mind, it reach our cells, it reach our body, and it reach our neurosystems and could be able to control the mind. So that is called music therapy. And music therapy I have played. So in nano level, and I have gone to the lower level. It is a sustainable sustainable music system. And the sustainable music system can able to control, distract the theory. And this is the environmental health impact assessment process. It is the project proposal for the various the power plants. For example, China nuclear power plant in Quinsan, and the power plant have got very good production and quality, but there are a lot of environmental health problems among the people in the vicinity. That is a disaster problems due to the the nuclear radiation take place in Quinsan nearby Shanghai, and the nearby people get affected by the radioactive pollution, psychiatry and neuro problems. So this need the environmental health impact assessment. The environmental health impact assessment is a process which systematically identify and evaluate the proposed projects, plans, programs, legislative actions, environmental effects and environmental health effects. So I just give this particular slide. That is after this slide I am just giving this. This is pH. pH is a fundamental of this psychiatry and the neuro problems. It is a measure of the negative logarithm of hydrogen ion activity. It is a negative logarithm of hydrogen. It is also concerned the TDS in the brain, total dissolved solids in the brain. And this is the deoxygenation reaeration process in the cells that is occurring simultaneously. Deoxygenation is the removal of the oxygen from the cell, and reaeration means the addition of oxygen in the cell. So this is simultaneously taken place, and it depends upon the pH, that is a negative logarithm of hydrogen ion activity, and total dissolved solids. Total dissolved solids means the cations, sum of cations and anions present in the brain. So the objective of the investigation to establish strategic environmental assessment process in neuroscience and psychiatry for the sustainable nano toxicological development, which could dominate medical or technical, economical and environmental factors in the world neuroscience and psychiatry projects. Because this is a systematic identification and evaluation without compromising the ability of the future generations to meet their own needs. One generation is equal to 30 years. So it is a toxicological effects that could be taken during the psychiatrical and neurological problems. You see this, the function, loss function deployment. This loss function deployment have to be considered in chemotherapy, in treatment, in medicinal drugs, medicinal, and in order to avoid the toxicological effects. So sustainable toxicological development means it is a kind of development that toxicological development that meets the needs of the present generation's toxicological requirements without compromising the future generation to meet their toxicological requirements. So it is meticulously assessed and evaluated the EMR interactions on the earth futures macroscopically and microscopically. For example, manufacturing 1, that is a macro level, manufacturing 2 in the micro level, and it is also future generation. It is close to atomic and molecular scale, that is a macro, micro and nano, and close to atomic and molecular scale. Our brain have cells which are all very close to atomic and molecular scale in order to access and evaluate the process projects concerned to the neurological effects. And it is also systematic identification in the level of 3, that is close atomic and close molecular level, in order to achieve the desired accuracy, maximize the efficiency of the projects, maximize the reliability and the timeliness. Very, very important is timeliness. So that is why the keynote address I have taken this particular slide, that is a strategic environmental assessment process. So here environment and sustainability, both factors are considered in this book. So that is a strategic environmental assessment process according to the medical theory, and it lead the sustainability aspects and environmental aspects. So that is the important investigation. Even in cell also, lot of nano pollution take place. It is called nano pollution. And similarly, the micro pollution and macro pollution. Macro pollution we see that is beyond 1 mm. Micro pollution we see in pollens, suspended particulate matter, respirable suspended particulate matter, nano particulate matter, they are all having positive effects and negative effects on the human being, and the negative effects have to be controlled. That is called the nano toxicological development. For example, this investigation has been taken place in Kunshan nuclear power plant, China, and the untreated the effects that is due to the chromium pollution in the rivers, chrome composite leather clad rollers in the gins, and Kunshan nuclear power plant disaster. Psychological health impacts on the residents and workers have been investigated. And it is very important for the nuclear power plants to conduct the EHIA, Environmental Health Impact Assessment process. It is a very important process. And this is a process approach which can able to control the loss function deployment. Am I audible? Am I audible? Hello?
Hello?
Am I audible?
Yes.
Okay. Next, I am going to the machine theory. How our machine, any machine you take, the machine is a ginning machine. So in this ginning machine, there is a roller is there. There is a knife is there. There is a beater is there. There is a it's a machine. This is oscillating. This beater is oscillating, and the roller is rotating at 100 RPM, and the beater is oscillating at 1,400 oscillation, just like our heart beating. Same manner, beater is oscillating. Our heart beating is nearly 100 to 150 beats per minute. And here also the beating is taken place. The gin roller is rotating. Our body is rotating in a gyroscopic couple. Our body is rotating, and it is our brain is oscillating nearly around 10 times more than the heart oscillations. Same manner, the ginning machine is rotating, and this rotating is there. So this is the fixed knife. This is a roller. The seed cotton is going on ginning, and lint cotton is obtained. So this is a seed cotton. In China, you might have seen the seed cotton. So the lint is obtained in this process, and the seed cotton is removed. And the same manner in body also, during the machining process, during our working of our body, the body is rotating at a gyroscopic couple of 100 approximately 100 RPM, and our heartbeat is approximately 100 oscillations, 100 RPM it is rotating, and our heart is beating in around 100 to 150 beats per minute, according to our stress theory. And our brain is oscillating around 800 to 1000 oscillations per minute. So this all the blood is separated, and the solid waste is separated. Blood is same thing here. Lint cotton is separated, and seed cotton is separated, and remaining products are the products of the working or products of combustion. This may lead even nano also. It may, you see this is the lint cotton. It is in a macro scale. This is a lint cotton. You wear the shirt and the pant and all. So this is made up of this lint cotton, right? So here it is the lint cotton is separated, and the seed cotton is separated. Seed cotton is similarly in our body also. Blood is separated, and after we take the food, the blood is separated, and the solid waste are separated, and this is a seed cotton. This is the input for everything. There is an input is necessary. This is a lint cotton. So lint cotton is separated, and this is a roller. So these rollers are made up of chrome composite leather clad rollers, the chemical aspect. So this has environmental pollution. So this get the what is called the nanoparticles to macro particles close to 1 mm, and this has effects on the brain and neuro of the workers who are working in the vicinity. So these are the workers. See, 6 months they work in the cotton season. So after they reach house, they are not getting any physiological disorders. After they come and working in this industry, and they get physiological disorders. So what was the reason? They are get exposed with the lint cotton nanoparticles, respirable suspended particulate matter. They get affect the brain. First it goes to the brain, and after the heart signaling, the brain get affected, and the workers physiological. It is not this is so physiological. After 6 months, they take rest in the home, and they get the body, the blood, everything is get purified, and they are becoming very fat. And after they reach the industry, they become physiological disorders. They expand and contract. Why? What was the reason for expansion? What was the reason for the contraction? Because they are psychological disorders, physiological disorders, both the same stress, that is macroscopically and microscopically taken place. So this is how this psychiatry and neuroscience have the effects on the human being. So central nervous systems as well as the brain, as well as the function of the people get affected. The efficiency and the effectiveness. The effectiveness means the ability to achieve the desired result. Suppose neuro or BCPT or music therapy, if it is working on only on the effectiveness, it is only ability to achieve the desired result. Efficiency means the quality. It concerns the reliability. It concerns the timeliness. So the music therapy, which I have focused, because I focus on efficiency manner. I want to reach you in 100%. Why? Without loss function, without even 0%, 1% input wastage. So I could be able to reach you in 100%. That is called efficiency focus. This is called efficiency. This is called efficiency. Our design of the neuroscience or the psychiatry or pharmacology should be designed and developed in such a manner that it should be reliable, quality, and it should be timeliness. That is called efficiency. It will automatically increase the effectiveness because its effectiveness is 100%. And optimum means it is not highly effectiveness or efficiency. It is conducive to the human being. It is conducive to, suppose if I talk to you, so it is a conduciveness of your body, blood, and neuro, as well the brain, in order to reach you. So remaining as loss function deployment have to be mitigated. The loss function deployment have to be mitigated. The group of occupational exposed workers in Paula House and beating of lint cotton. It is called a strategic environmental assessment process. In my program, which I am giving you, I consider the medical aspect. It's called interdisciplinary. I consider the pharmacological aspect. I consider the sustainability aspect. I consider the environmental aspect. It is a holistic approach. So by the way, I could be able to maximize my efficiency in the program. Suppose if I do not consider the environment as well as sustainability, so it is called unsustainable presentation. So that means it may not reach you in a sustainable way, or it may not be produce you to the sustainable way for the BPCT program. So that is why I have considered the music therapy as an example. Music, it can able to make our attention in a nanosecond, even close microsecond. What was the reason? Because it distraction. The theory is called a distraction theory. So it have distraction, immediately it make our attention sustainably. So this is a synergistic poisoning. This is a synergistic poisoning. Cotton dust, leather powder, chromium. Suppose, for example, photochemical smoke in Los Angeles. Photochemical smoke, photoradioactive smoke occur in the Hiroshima, Nagasaki. So what was the reason? It is called synergistic poisoning. The synergistic means one acting on another pollutant, radioactive alpha, beta, gamma. Another is acting on another. So there is no solution for the radioactive chemical poisoning or radioactive pollution. So there is even today no drug is available in Nagasaki, Hiroshima bomb blast occur because it was a highly radioactive pollution take place. So that is called synergistic. So it has to be solved only by the synergistic modeling drug theory. So it cannot be solved by the conventional theory. It has to be considered the environment and sustainability apart from the medical. So medical is 0.33 and sustainability is 0.33 and the environment is 0.33. And that's why it is called sustainable neuroscience and sustainable psychiatry process. It is called sustainable development, the development that meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the ability and efficiency of the future generation to meet their own needs. And one decay period is equal to 30 years. One generation period is equal to 30 years. So it is occupational health exposed worker in a ginning industry. And strategic environmental assessment process which has been conducted. And I have proposed the policy requirements in the industry to control the environmental pollution in the among the workers. So it is called a policy action, sustainable policy action. Such as a sustainable policy action is a part of the environmental assessment process and environmental strategic assessment. And it is also controlling the environmental pollution and sustainability effects on the globe. So this is the chromium in a nano level assessment is taken place in the for example, the chromium poisoning is 0.1 mg per liter. Beyond that, it is producing cancer effects, cancer brain effects, cancer neuro effects, cell effects, and that's why the chromium pollution has to be controlled in the industry. So it is a rubberized cotton fabric roller sample, which is 100% pollution free, and it has to be used in the industries. Neuroscience and psychiatry soft matter. It is chemical treatment and neutralization. And pH is less than 2. Why I started pH is a negative logarithm of the hydrogen ion activity. pH less than 2, pH more than 12.5. The people cannot able to survive because it is a acidic and alkaline poisoning. So I have mentioned about the alkaline and the acidic poisoning. In our brain also, the pH, the cells become acidic or alkaline. So the no sooner it becomes pH, it is a mortality effects take place on our brain and psychiatry, and the heart become weak. And similarly, the industrial toxicology, how the poisoning effects take place in generic, not only in industrial specific, source specific. Source specific means you and me live in house. It is called source specific. Municipal. Industrial means Shanghai industry. Lot of industries are there in Shanghai, but whereas Queensland, very less industries, only nuclear power plant is there. But that itself is a toxicological effects, and it has to be assessed for the poisoning effects. And this is the theory which I already explained to you. This is a very important theory because it is EMR interaction, the sun's radiation interaction on interrelation on the human being. Similarly, other stars like moon, for example, moon is a magnetoelectric. The same radiation is taken place, but it is in a magnetoelectric form, macroscopically and microscopically, and even nano, close to atomic, close to molecular. I can say, I cannot say exact atomic and exact microscopic or exact molecular. I can say only close to molecular and close to atomic. So this theory is E is equal to hc by lambda. Lambda is the wavelength, c is the frequency of radiation. For example, 1 by t. Suppose vibration is taken place, and this is a vibration. So 1 by t, I have vibrated the music therapy in a 1 by t. That is a time is 1000 millionth, 1000 billionth, 1000 billionth. So they are all very nano level. The sound reaches our brain, and it is functioning, and it get vibrated through the particle theory and wave theory. Particle theory and wave theory, and wavelength in different band, right from infrared and ultraviolet, and it also reaches the beyond the rays, that is close to atomic and close to molecular. And this also macro level, it is also linked to the various kind of stars and the various celestial planets. This is a poisoning scale. So poisoning scale is a negative logarithm of the LD50. That is a lethal dose 50% test organisms. Botulinum toxicity, it is 12. Water toxicity, it is 1. And for example, it is a paracetamol. in our BPCT paracetamol. It is nearly around 2.7 to 2.71. And once this reaches the, goes to the paracetamol toxicological effects. And this paracetamol toxicological effects should be minimized as minimum as possible. Otherwise, this becomes poisoning in the cells, and the cells get affected, and the efficiency will be reduced. So this is a very important slide. I have told you about the process. Any process means interactive or interrelation. And these resources are transformed into the efficiency result, products or services. These are input, manpower, machinery, raw materials, method, money, market, and efficiency and effectiveness. Loss function deployment. It is optimum efficiency and optimum effectiveness. So this is only strategic environmental assessment process only is possible. Strategic means we can able to achieve the maximum result in order to design and develop the sustainability life. So neuroscience and psychiatry, soft matter. The brain is a soft matter because it is designed and developed in a soft analysis only, because it is tedious. Total dissolved solids. Total dissolved solids is equal to conductivity. It is based on the conductivity, conduction of electrons, conduction of vibrations, conduction of electrons, conduction of transmittance, conduction of the reflectance, conduction of the absorptance. So TDS is equal to 0.5 conductivity. So TDS is the soft matter, brain and the central nervous systems, and neuroscience and psychiatry. And it should be optimum matter, but it is not optimum matter even today also. What was the reason? Means it is TDS, total dissolved solids. That is the relationship between the NaCl and sodium chloride and the dissolved oxygen. So this is a dissolved oxygen I told. So this is a dissolved oxygen. This is a dissolved oxygen. DNA, RNA, dissolved oxygen, deoxygenation and reaeration. So the bottom one is anaerobic condition. The top one is aerobic condition. So this anaerobic means it is no oxygen, but the organisms survive there. So it's a poisoning effects. Fish cannot survive at 6.1 mg per liter of DO in a river. So if it is less than 6.1 means the fish cannot survive there. So it is called fish toxicity. So BOD have to be controlled. Biochemical oxygen demand have to be controlled. So that is in air, water, land. The air, water, land, it has to be controlled. So next one is the theory is concerned to the electromagnetic spectrum, magnetoelectric spectrum. This is the Poisson scale. So this is a negative logarithm of LD50. LD50. It is a negative logarithm of LD50 in kg per kg of the body weight. But again, it has to be redesigned to the efficiency. Now you understand, it is only effectiveness. It has to be redesigned again for the efficiency, right? So this is the effect of the median lethal dose on response. And you see the industrial toxicological scales. The different industrial toxicological scales are given. For example, with respect to the biological and pharmacological. For example, very toxic, harmful, corrosiveness, irritant, and sensitive side, carcinogenic, mutagenic. All these things apply to the industrial toxicological classes, source-specific toxicological classes, and generic toxicological classes. There are three aspects are there. Industrial, source-specific. Source-specific means it is municipal. You and me, you are in Beijing, I am in Chennai. So it is called source-specific. It is concerned to the municipal. Industrial means it is, for example, Shanghai. Shanghai is industrial. So industrial toxicological classes. Generic means agricultural. For example, Kunshan. Kunshan is agricultural place. So we have three categories. One is source-specific, industrial toxicological, and generic. Your pharmacology have to apply in all the three classes. It is a commercial value, industrial value, it is sensible value, as well as it is a residential value. 4 values are available. That is industry. That is the first one is sensitive. sensitive places, sensitive organs, sensitive tissues, sensitive machines, and industrial machines. And another one is called generic. Generic means agricultural, for example, agricultural machines. So these three different classes are available. And this is the bioaccumulative toxicology. So environmental health impact assessment, social health impact assessment. It is a systematic identification and evaluation of the social effects of the proposed projects, plans, programs, legislative actions. It is also concerned to the policies with respect to the physical environment, chemical environment, biological environment, biochemical environment, radioactive environment. It is also concerned to the chemical environment. It is concerned to the physical environment, archaeological environment, social economical environment, and of the total environment. You consider as a total environment. And these projects have to be environmental health impact, and it is also sustainable health impact assessment. So this is how the RSPM, respirable suspended particulate matter, have been accessed and mitigated in the environment. It is called source pollution control. And the noise pollution beyond 180, 150 decibels and less than 1 dB, that is 20 reverberations. 20 reverberations less than 1 dB decibels. So they are ultrasonic and infra sound. This also have effects on the brain. So this is the total lethal, it is a LEQ level. LEQ means equivalent level of sound, equivalent level of sound, the threshold limit of our ear. So it is called the level of the sound which have effects on the eardrum. Eardrum also is getting vibrated in a nano to the macro level. So it has to be controlled by the ear plug. If you are occupationally exposed, the ear. So it's a psychiatry and neuro have the particular equation. It is a 10 of logarithmic scale. It is also again logarithmic scale. So the symptoms of the non-occupational, occupational. The slide is showing about the river pollution due to the industrial poisoning like chromium, nickel. The people in the vicinity get affected by the cancer problems. What was the reason? The people drink this water and get affected by the cancer pollution. So that is in case of our Brahmani river in Orissa. But so far there is no proper environmental management available in order to avoid the situations. So what was the reason? The reason is the proper sustainable development knowledge and sustainable and environmental impact assessment knowledge and implementation. It is called strategic environmental process knowledge and skill how to be integrated. It is a lack of that particular systems. So it is a concentration and a distance. And the various list of industries which are hazardous and need to be mitigated for the strategic environmental assessment process. This is a LEQ, how the noise pollution have effects. So the reading have been taken in the noise pollution on the ear and how it have affects the brain and psychiatry, and the noise pollution level is assessed. So radioactive pollution have been accessed. For example, the radioactive pollution have been accessed in 2004 when I was in China, Shanghai and Queensland. That time radioactive pollution have been accessed towards the strategic environmental assessment process of Queensland National Power Corporation. And the environmental health impact assessment is very, very important for the China nuclear power plant, especially Queensland Power Corporation. And many people get affected by the psychological health impacts, physiological, psychological health impacts. So psychological health impacts of the nuclear power corporation in Queensland is the systematic identification and evaluation of the potential environmental health, that is psychological health impacts of the projects. Especially it has to be done before the power corporation starts, but it was functioning for more than 20-30 years, but it is claimed that it is 100% safe. No, It's not 100% safe. It is partially only safe because a lot of radiation sicknesses are the people in the Quinshan. For the reason is the environmental health impact assessment for this project have not been done. And this is the particular slide is, this is the substract and mu growth rate. It's called monod kinetics. The kinetics, the brain kinetics as well as the heart kinetics or even neurokinetics, it is following this particular theory. That is the growth rate of a considered microorganisms as well as the function of the limiting substrate concentration. And this going on increasing as a substrate is available for the virus or coronavirus, and this is growth is increasing. Its growth is increasing as a substrate is, as the food is available for the microorganisms. It can be virus or it can be even close to atomic microorganisms, close to molecular microorganisms. It can be even macroorganisms. It can be the organisms which are in the size of 1 mm, or it can be the organisms which is more than 10 mm. All this particular growth rate is curve is very important. And here also the focus is effectiveness and efficiency and optimum growth rate, optimum substrate utilization. And these are all the symptoms due to the carboxy, because of the carbon monoxide is a poisoning upon exposure, and how it have effects. Carboxy, our hemoglobin level in the body, it is polluted by the carbon monoxide or nitrogen oxide or sulfur dioxide or a coronavirus pollution. No problem. It can be even micro to the macro to the nano, or it may be close to the, but if it is polluted means it is carboxy. If it is carbon dioxide means carbon monoxide pollution. If it is nitrogen oxide means nitrogen oxide pollution. If it is bisonosis means it is bisonosis is a disease due to the cotton dust among the workers who are working in the textile industry. It is called bisonosis. Bisonosis is hemoglobin in the hemoglobin level get polluted by the cotton dust and become bisonosis. If it is a tobacco means it is a tobacco. The hemoglobin oxygen carrying capacity get depleted. Just like the same theory how it was explained here. The deoxygenation and reaeration. It is a deoxygenation, reaeration. BOD, biochemical oxygen demand. COD, chemical oxygen demand. POD, physical oxygen demand. Or radioactive oxygen demand. When these 4 aspects are pollution, which follows this negative logarithm. This is only concerning about the negative logarithm of the hydrogen ion activity. This is only negative active. This is only pH. pH means it is a negative logarithm of hydrogen ion activity. And this the poisoning is this is the poisoning concerned to the negative logarithm of lethal dose 50% test organisms. The same thing is applied, and and here it is. The poisoning is occurring in the blood, blood or solid matter, solid materials, solid waste, that is feces. I mean sewage. I can say it is called sewage. Sewage is the net solids. Net solids we can say. The blood and plasma level. Blood, plasma level, then white cell and blood cell and red cells, and the solid matter, the water and the solid matter, and the urine and the sperms. All these things are interrelated, interacted, and you can able to understand this theory, that is percentage of carboxy hemoglobin. If CO2 is increasing, going on beyond 600 ppm, coma stage. If carbon monoxide ppm is 1 or 2, it is no symptoms. If carbon monoxide is more than 600, then it becomes coma. It is 50 to 60%. Similarly, if coronavirus, if it is only 1 ppm threshold limit, no symptoms. But coronavirus potential is more than 600 ppm, it becomes coma, interrupted by convulsions. So this is the volatile organic compounds. How the same CO poisoning, VOC poisoning. It is called the volatile organic compounds. Volatile organic compounds. For example, carbon tetrachloride. For example, trichloro, trifluoroethylene compounds. Poisoning take place, and the brain also have such a porous matrix. our brain and get is oscillated and getting the input of the blood, and it is in the level of granulated activated carbon, and the toxicology have been accessed and mitigated, which is called sustainable toxicology, the toxicological requirements that meets the needs of the present generation without compromising the future generation to meet their own needs. So DNA damage, how the DNA damage is taken place, environmental health impact assessment, and the toxicological, the definition of the hazardous waste, anything which because of its quantity, concentration, or physical chemical infection characteristics significantly contribute to increase the mortality or cause an increase in serious irreversible incapacitating reversible illness, or pose a substantial present or potential hazard to human health. Not only human health and animal environment, it is also plant environment, it is also even concerned to the microscopical environment, it is also concerned to the nanoscopic, it is also concerned to the nano or atomic health, that environment. It may be biotic environment or abiotic environment, or partially biotic or impartially biotic, abiotic. When improperly treated, stored, transported, disposed, otherwise manage the hazardous waste, hazardous treatment, and the very important is hazardous waste management. Hazardous, even virus also at a molecular microscopic, it is become hazardous because the pH, negative logarithm of hydrogen ion activity, LD, lethal dose of 50% test organisms beyond the threshold limit, beyond the environmental sustainable limits, 0.1 ppm. 0.1 means 0.1 parts per million, or 0.1 mg per liter, air, land, water interaction interrelations. That is 0.1 ppm or 0.1 mg per kg or mg per liter, all are same level. And it is due to the ignitability, corrosivity, reactability, and toxicity less than pH, that is 2, and more than 12.5, acidic and alkaline, which is assessed, and toxic extraction leaching procedures tests have been conducted. Nano soft matter. Nano soft matter is our brain. It is a nano heat treatment. Micro atomic, closed atomic soft matter. But our brain should be optimum hardness, optimum softness. But it is not taken place. Our by virtue genetic, it is our brain, our human brain is only soft matter. But it should be optimum. The TDS should be nearly 500 mg per liter. 500 mg per liter means nearly around conductivity, conduction of electrons. Conduction of electrons is 1000. TDS is equal to 500 mg per liter. It is 250. 250 optimum level. 250 means it is micro Siemens, micro mos per centimeter, 250 approximately. But it is very soft because it is resistance is more. Our human brain is resistance is more. It is not viable actually. Nano soft matter universally is telling, but nano soft, it should be optimum softness, optimum hardness, nearly around 500 mg per liter of TDS, total dissolved solids. Now, the EHA is a project proposal for the genetically modified BT cottons and nuclear power plants, policies, programs, legislative actions. EHA was conducted in November 2004 at Queensland National Power Corporation to assess the toxicological effects by visual inspection as per the environmental, psychological, and physiological health loadings on workers and nearby residents. Nano toxicology resulted as 1000 millionth standard order neurosis and psychiatry towards sustainable nanotoxicological development. It is a sustainable nanotoxicological development means this is a nanotoxicological development which considers the environmental and sustainability factors in order to meet the needs of the present generation without compromising the future generation to meet their nanotoxicological requirements. That should be considered only in the strategic environmental assessment process. The SEA must be needed for making much more decisions in planning and decision-making process than EIA process. The conclusion is the prediction and assessment of environmental impacts on the neuroscience and psychiatry as per PPTs, case study and check reports, EHIA and EA reports must be necessary for the projects, plans, policies, legislative actions, and plans. Strategic environmental assessment process for sustainable environmental neuroscience and psychiatry towards sustainable nanotoxicological development. Social impact assessment is the systematic identification of the social impacts of the proposed projects, plans, programs, and legislative actions. The reference is Iyer, Vijayan, Gurumurthy, 2020, Strategic Environmental Assessment Process for Sustainable Brain and Development of Soft Matter Science, Engineering, and Technology towards Inclusive Sustainable IW 1001, accepted for abstract in 2020 International Joint Conference on Automation Science in Engineering, that is Sustainable Automating Future, International Workshop on Industrial Informatics, IWOII, www.Prague, Czech Republic, to be held 1920 2000, Hong Kong Society of Robotics and Automation. It is a sustainable goal of sustainable automating future. So with this, I thank you very much, the organizers, for giving me an opportunity to elucidate my paper. Thank you very much. Hello?
Hello? Okay.
I completed.
Yes. Thank you for Professor's wonderful speech.
Any questions, please, from the audience?
Yes. Any questions about the speech? If you have any questions, you can leave a message in the group chat or click the raise hand button. Any questions? No questions? Okay. If you are interested in Professor's research, we have uploaded his slideshow to the official website, and authors can go to the website and view it. Okay. Thanks again for Professor Iyer.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Okay. Okay, now let's continue our procedure. Our next keynote speaker is Dr. Mohammed Farhan Ashraf Beg. He received his Doctor of Pharmacy degrees from the Faculty of Pharmacy in Beijing, the Korea University, and he also got a PhD degree from the School of Chemistry and Chemical Engineering in Nanjing University. His speech title is DNA Now Devices Simultaneously Activating the EGFR and Integrin for Enhancing Cytoskeletal Activity and Cancer Cell Treatments. And due to the time difference, Dr. Beg could not attend the conference in person. He sent us a video of his keynote speech. And let's listen and watch the video.
When the cells exert force on the gold nanoparticles, the spectral shift occurs, and also the distance between the gold nanoparticles changes. And I study different cell functions. So these studies are good for this was a study Different types of receptors, for example, EGFR dimer and integrin. Then it stabilizes on the cell membrane for 35 to 45 minutes and activate different biochemical events contractions. But if we only activate the EGFR, then it is quickly internalized into the cells, because the EGFR after activation is quickly internalized into the cells to cause the cell proliferations. But in our case, the DNA probe was stabilized on the membrane for 35 to 45 minutes, and we were able to image the cellular events occurring on the cell membrane. So the binding of the probe to the cell membrane was a desirable event for us for bioimaging. And we were able to image the probe on the cell membrane, while the control probe showed the signals throughout the cells, and we were able to image the cell membrane.
interact with EGFR and internalize into the cells and producing intense fluorescent signals inside the cells. But this paper failed to monitor the dynamic changes on the cell membrane. So our study enabled us to monitor the dynamic changes on the cell membrane. So our DNA probe was resided on the cell membrane, and the control probe was quickly internalized into the cells. And we can clearly see the philopodia extensions after the activation of cytoskeleton compared to the control after we add our probe. And also the previous reports that used only integrin to activate also showed some extension in the philopodia of the cells. That was our results are correlate with these results. And for studying the hairpin effect of the hairpin structure, we use different length and sequences, and we can see if more force is required, then the fluorescence signals becomes dimmer if we increase the GC contents. And if we increase the GC contents to 100%, the fluorescence signals are decreased. And if we study the cytoskeletal activations, then we can use the FTC loaded rho kinase binder, and we can see the green signals that shows increased cytoskeletal activity. If there is more activity, like if the both receptors were activated simultaneously, so it shows the interaction between the receptors and produces more cytoskeletal activation and more force the cell exerts on the cell surface. And this force that shows in black, when both receptors are activated, then the force is increased. And we can see the protein expression with both receptors activated, that more protein expression we can see. Means these proteins are for the expression of the, that shows the cytoskeletal activations, and they are more, the cytoskeletal activation is more when both receptors are activated simultaneously. But after 1.5 hour, the cells are exhausted, and the cells who are under mechanical stimulations are exhausted and dead quickly than the control. So the cytoskeletal activation also produces some exhaustion effect to kill the cells. So this new method to kill the cell is called Mechanopharmacology. And we can see the, if we tag the anchor strand with some fluorophore like cyan fluorescent protein, and we can still like image the dynamic changes in the cell membrane. So this is related with the previous experiments, and we can also measure the force and stress on the cells through this method. We also studied the cell proliferation at different time intervals, and we can see in the start, like 30 minutes, the cell proliferation increased due to the mechanostimulations of the cells, but later, due to the exhaustion effects, the cells started to apoptize. So the summary of this presentation is in vitro imaging of mechanical cellular processes through the change in plasmon coupling and fluorescence. Co-activations of EGFR integrin by DNA probe enable us to monitor enhanced cytocellular activation and calculation of piconewton forces promoting the mechanical cell processes. And we were able to track cell contractions, dynamic change in cell morphology, and different cellular events like attachment, detachment, invasion, motility, metastasis, and cell signaling, and increased mechanical activity and repeated co-internalization of receptors and degradation by the lysosome caused cell death due to the exhaustion effect. And this new way to kill the cell is called mechanopharmacology. So thank you, everyone.
Hey, Professor, are you here? Can anyone hear the voice now? Okay. And we are sorry. We are sorry for the audio problem. And we will replay the professor's speech again. And we are sorry.
Hello everyone, my name is Beg. Today the topic I am discussing is designing DNA-based biofunctional materials. I'm a postdoc at the University of Hong Kong under the supervision of Professor Dr. Chengfei Zhang. The main contents of my presentation will be the introduction, biofunctional molecular functional tension probes, cellular imaging, and summary. So first I introduce my topic. I discussed a recent reports that use DNA-based nanomaterials for plasmonic imaging, and they attach the gold nanoparticles of various sizes at a specific positions on a 2D DNA lattice, and the spatiotemporal changes in the positions of the gold nanoparticles were imaged because the electronic cloud around gold nanoparticle experience some resonance if the gold nanoparticles are packed within very narrow spaces. And DNA is the material that can keep them at the specific distances. So we can design the DNA-based material and the specific and can functionalize these materials with the gold nanoparticles with the specific distance. And this is possible only with the DNA-based nanomaterials. Other material we cannot get spatiotemporal specificity in at nanoscale precisions. This is another recent report, and they polymerized some DNA tiles into 2D lattices. The 2D lattice can be either the nanosheet form or the fold onto itself and then can make a nanotube structure. I also reported some DNA, 2D and 3D DNA materials before. And this recent paper shows the functionalization, the ligand functionalization of the 2D DNA lattice and can interact with the multiple cellular biomarkers for bioimaging. And this report also functionalized the 2D DNA nanosheet with some biological compounds for immunotherapy. So as my focus on this in this presentation is molecular tension probes for bioimaging, so I will discuss two main types of molecular tension probes. First is surface fixed probe, and the second are non-surface fixed probes, or the free probes that can interact with the cells. The surface fixed probes are fixed to the surfaces that interact with the cells, and either they produce some fluorescent signals or they produce change in plasmon coupling, because the gold nanoparticles have electronic clouds, and in dark field we can see the spectral changes in the gold nanoparticles. So non-surface fixed probes are free probes, and the simplest probe can be the hairpin structure that can interact with the receptors, and when they are internalized into the cells along with the receptors, and then the hairpins are unfolded and fluorescence is produced. And also they can be used for intracellular imaging, because the intracellular imaging is also important for studying cancer, to study the metastasis. And the bispecific activations, this report was the first report that used 3D DNA nanomaterial to act on the two different cell receptors at the same time and produce some fluorescent signals for bioimaging. For my case, I also use some plasmonic nanomaterials when I used gold nanoparticles in the close vicinity, and when the cells exert force on the gold nanoparticles, the spectral shift occurs and also the distance between the gold nanoparticle changes. And I studied different cellular events with the live cell imaging with the dark field microscopy, so like cell attachment, detachments, exocytosis processes, endocytosis processes, cell divisions, and internalization of DNA probe as well as the receptors. So these studies are good for bioimaging, the plasmonic imaging that can measure the spectral shifts between the gold nanoparticles and also can image the cellular events going on the cell membrane. This was a study published in 2018, and they showed some videos to image the cells, the mechanical processes of the cells, the cell contractions, etc. And this video I took during my experiments, also showing the dynamic changes on the cell membranes. So we can see the interaction of the DNA device with the cell membrane, and we can also see the internalizations, cell internalization, which we call endocytosis, and also the cell contractions. So the objective of our study was mono-bio tri-specific activation on cancer cells, enhanced cytoskeletal activation, and imaging biophysical cell events. So purpose and innovation. Purpose was to previously didn't study the effects of different receptors on cellular processes simultaneously, and we imaged that interactions between the cell surface receptors because many cell processes are involved with more than one type of receptors. So it was important, and I use short circular scaffolding technique. So this technique gives the stiff structures and can be used for intermolecular interactions and multi-ligand functionalization, and we can target multiple receptors on the cells. Now I will discuss the design, synthesis, and characterization of the molecular tension probes. As we can see, my DNA probe had two anchor strands with the gold nanoparticles, and the gold nanoparticles were coated with the ligand, for example EGF, that could interact with the EGF dimer, and the side chain had aptamer that could interact with the integrin alpha 6 beta 4, and also had some gold nanoparticle here. And the hairpin structure, when the hairpin structure was unfolded, the distance between the gold nanoparticles was changed. So how I synthesized, I used the short circular scaffolding technique to make the rigid rectangular structure for my DNA probe using different hairpin structures. I can program this portion, and the longer hairpin will require greater force to unfold the hairpin, and the shorter hairpins will require less force to unfold this side arm, and also depend on the nucleotide sequence. For example, GC has triple hydrogen bonding, so require more force to unfold, and AT has double hydrogen bonding that can be unfolded with this smaller force. So characterization, I did some UV and some hyperspectral imaging, and also the TEM and some gel characterizations, and also the unfolding of hairpin, study of the unfolding of the hairpin structures. And this is the mechanism actually when this probe interact with the two different types of receptors. for example, EGFR dimer and integrin, then it stabilizes on the cell membrane for 35 to 45 minutes and activate different biochemical events to produce the mechanosensitization of the cells and activate the cytoskeleton for cell contractions. But if we only activate the EGFR, then it is quickly internalized into the cells, because the EGFR after activation is quickly internalized into the cells to cause the cell proliferations. But in our case, the DNA probe was stabilized on the membrane for 35 to 45 minutes, and we were able to image the cellular events occurring on the cell membrane. So the binding of the probe to the cell membrane was a desirable event for us for bioimaging. And we were able to image the probe on the cell membrane, while the control probe showed the signals throughout the cells, and we were able to image the cell membrane, the dynamic changes in the cell membrane. And there was a report in 2009 that also reported some gold nanoparticles to be interact with EGFR and internalized into the cells and producing intense fluorescent signals inside the cells. But this paper failed to monitor the dynamic changes on the cell membrane. So our study enabled us to monitor the dynamic changes on the cell membrane. So our DNA probe was resided on the cell membrane, and the control probe was quickly internalized into the cells. And we can clearly see the philopodia extensions after the activation of cytoskeleton compared to the control after we add our probe. And also the previous reports that used only integrin to activate also showed some extension in the philopodia of the cells. That was our results are correlate with these results. And for studying the hairpin effect of the hairpin structure, we use different length and sequences, and we can see if more force is required, then the fluorescence signals becomes dimmer if we increase the GC contents, and if we increase the GC contents to 100%, the fluorescence signals are decreased. And if we study the cytoskeletal activations, then we can use the FTC loaded rho kinase binder, and we can see the green signals that shows increased cytoskeletal activity. If there is more activity, like if both receptors were activated simultaneously, so it shows the interaction between the receptors and produces more cytoskeletal activation and more force the cell exerts on the cell surface. And this force that shows in black, when both receptors are activated, then the force is increased. And we can see the protein expression with both receptors activated, that more protein expression we can see. Means these proteins are for the expression of that shows the cytoskeletal activations, and they are more, the cytoskeletal activation is more when both receptors are activated simultaneously. But after 1.5 hour, the cells are exhausted, and the cells who are under mechanical stimulations are exhausted and dead quickly than the control. So the cytoskeletal activation also produces some exhaustion effect to kill the cells. So this new method to kill the cell is called Mechanopharmacology. And we can see if we tag the anchor strand with some fluorophore like cyan fluorescent protein, and we can still like image the dynamic changes in the cell membrane. So this is related with the previous experiments, and we can also measure the force and stress on the cells through this method. We also studied the cell proliferation at different time intervals, and we can see in the start, like 30 minutes, the cell proliferation increased due to the mechanostimulations of the cells, but later, due to the exhaustion effects, the cells started to apoptize. So the summary of this presentation is in vitro imaging of mechanical cellular processes through the change in plasmon coupling and fluorescence. Co-activations of EGFR integrin by DNA probe enable us to monitor enhanced cytocellular activation and calculation of piconewton forces promoting the mechanical cell processes. And we were able to track cell contractions, dynamic change in cell morphology, and different cellular events like attachment, detachment, invasion, motility, metastasis, and cell-cell signaling, and increased mechanical activity and repeated co-internalization of receptors and degradation by the lysosome caused cell death due to the exhaustion effect. And this new way to kill the cell is called Mechanopharmacology. So thank you, everyone.
Okay, any questions about this speech? Any questions?
Yes, I have one question.
Okay, if you have questions, you can write to us via email or contact us by WeChat, and we will contact Dr. Beck to reply you. Oh? Okay.
What is the treatment efficiency?
Thanks.
What is the treatment efficiency? What is the nanotube treatment efficiency? What is nanotube treatment efficiency?
Sorry, Dr. Beck is not attending conference. Could you please write us email and we will contact Dr. Beck? Or we will give you her email, his email.
No.
Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Cassius. All right. Then we will continue our next procedure. The next procedure is oral presentation. Every speaker has 15 minutes to give a speech, including the question and answer time. And now let's welcome the paper ID to share his work with us. The first oral reporter is MSB 6181, but due to his personal reasons, he changed his oral speech to poster presentations. So let's just welcome our second oral reporter. Paper ID is MSB 6214, and the title of his lecture is Influence of BMI and motion pattern in the assessment of muscle strength grade and spasticity using EMG and joint angle. Please be prepared.
Hello.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Please wait a second. Yes, and you can start your speech now.
Okay. Can you see my slide?
Yes, I can see your screen.
Yeah. Okay. And good afternoon. My name is Wang Zhengtao, and today I would like to talk about our study about influence of BMI and motion pattern in the assessment of muscle strength grade and spasticity using EMG and the joint angle. And first, the introduction. The spinal cord is an important part of the central nervous system, and the spinal cord injury would cause loss of motor function. And rehabilitation training is one of the most important ways to restore motor function. And here we have a normal rehabilitation process. As we can see, before we design a rehabilitation scheme, we have to do some assessment to know the situation of the patient. And after the rehabilitation treatment, we need to assess again to evaluate the efficiency and accordingly change the scheme design. The current gold standard for measurement of residual motor function after SCI is the International Standards of the Neurological Classification of Spinal Cord Injury. However, this framework evaluates intentional isolated muscle activity in 5 key muscles of the arms and legs, and it heavily depends on the doctor's experience and the subjective judgment. So we need we need new tools and frameworks to get objective and accurate results, which also benefits big data analysis and rehabilitation robots since they need accurate input parameters. EMG is used to measure muscle activity and is a promising alternative for objective and accurate assessment. The amplitude of the EMG represents the number of motor units recruited and their firing rate and pattern. However, the amplitude is affected by several other factors, such as the size, shape, materials, and the distance between the electrodes, and primarily affected by the fat layer, causing non-physiological between subject variability. And to avoid this problem, EMG signals are commonly normalized to a standard value, usually peak EMG obtained during maximum voluntary contraction. And for healthy people, this is not a problem. And for patients with stroke, it is possible it is possible to compare the affected side and unaffected side because most of them are hemiplegia. However, patients with SCI are most paraplegia, which means it's impossible to obtain an MVC EMG. And they need to be compared with healthy people of the same physical condition and movement. So we need a database. And therefore, the overall aim of this study was to investigate the influence factors such as body mass index and the motion pattern on EMG and develop an objective assessment protocol for SCI patients. And a group of healthy students was recruited from our university. Here is the basic information. And our measuring system consists of an EMG amplifier and an optical motion capture system. The EMG signal and the position of markers are recorded simultaneously. And we select key muscles for each spinal level. And here are examples of the movement. We have active, passive, and MVC movements. After recording the data, the root mean square of the EMG was calculated using a sliding window for each muscle. and the mean value of 5 peaks is considered as the RMS of an active or passive movement. The RMS EMG of the MVC test is also calculated. And then the RMS of active movement is normalized using RMS of MVC to get the muscle activation. The co-activation index was calculated for all flexor and extensor muscle pairs. This index would be helpful for assessment of spasticity because it is hard to tell whether it is voluntary muscle activation or spasticity using only RMS. And joint angles are used to judge the flexor and the extensor during the movement. Then I would like to share our results. The RMS values of active and MVC movements of most muscles in healthy subjects are negatively correlated with BMI, and the RMS values of the upper limbs are significantly higher than that of lower limbs, although muscles of lower limbs need to overcome more weight, but there is more fat in the lower limbs. And the RMS of active movement is normalized using RMS of MVC to get the muscle activation. This can be the reference range for muscle strength grade of the grade 3 of the current framework, which means the patient can move full joint angle overcoming the gravity. And the co-activation index calculated with normalized RMS has a better consistency. This result can be considered as the reference range indicating no spasticity occurs. And the BMI and motion patterns were not considered in previous studies in muscle strength grade and spasticity assessment. But in this study, we found that BMI affects the amplitude of EMG signals, which can be helpful for normalization. But more experimental data are needed, also including patients with different grades. And RMS EMG values were significantly different between different motion patterns, and data fusion of EMG and motion information is necessary. Our conclusion is the BMI and motion pattern influence the RMS values and should be considered as control variables. And more data of patients with different levels of muscle strength degree and spasticity will be collected in the following study to improve our database. And that's all. Thank you. Have any questions?
Yes, thanks
Hello?
for your great presentation. Any questions? Any questions about this speech? If you have any questions, you can raise.
Dr. Vijayan, I want one question.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
What is the importance of the mechanical properties in your project?
What? I'm sorry, could you repeat your question?
What is the importance of the mechanical properties?
Important what?
Of the mechanical properties, mechanical properties of the
Mechanical.
spinal cord. Yeah, spinal cord mechanical properties.
Spinal cord mechanical properties.
Yeah, mechanical properties. Spinal cord mechanical properties.
We collected the EMG of muscles with we don't analyze the mechanical properties of spinal cord itself.
Okay, okay.
Okay, all
Thank
right. Right. Now it's time for us to end the conference. Thanks for your speech. Okay, now this is the end of today's conference. Everybody has done your best, and all the wonderful performance makes today's conference an unforgettable one. If any of you would like an invitation of the conference or the proof of your oral presentation, you can send us an email and we will get back to you immediately. Poster has been updated and authors can download from the official website. Okay, thanks for joining the conference. Thank you all. See you next year. Goodbye.
Shanti. Shanti.
Yes,